Welcome back to another episode. Jay here with Brandon. Let's talk about a few interesting things that are happening this week. Starting off with California drivers, you guinea pigs. Uber is starting to allow California drivers to set their own fare. Also, some cities want to tax Uber more and Lyft. What would that mean for drivers? And a proposed $500 million bailout for taxi cab medallion owners in New York City. You guys agree with that or no? And what other topics, Brendan?
I think we also want to touch on in Seattle, another unfortunate shooting happened. A lot of people criticizing both Uber and Lyft for a little surge pricing during this crisis. We're going to kind of unpack that a little bit and talk about how that happens, why it happens, and what Uber and Lyft can kind of do going forward to prevent some things like that. But I think also one of the main things that the people want to know is how you are doing today, Gridwise Jay.
I am not drinking coffee today as much as I should. I still had a few cups. But overall, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Have a cup right now, or just pretend like you had one, because we got some cool stuff to talk about. Let's can I kick this off with talking about the Uber testing some new features again with the Cali drivers?
You sure may, Brandon.
Okay, I sure may. So yeah, as Gridwise Jay was kind of just alluding to a little bit, Uber is, again, they are continuing to roll out some of these new features that they're testing for drivers. That's kind of in a direct response to AB5. A couple of podcasts ago, we talked about this whole Project Luigi that they have going on. That's really like the code name for this project that Uber has to just make sure they are AB5 compliant. A lot of things have come out from that, including kind of the surge pricing coming back to where it is now, or where it was, I should say, and then Uber capping their fees. Another thing that they are trying, which is super interesting, is allowing drivers to set their own fees. Now, how this is going to work is, or how this does work right now, because they're actually testing this in airports in Santa Barbara, Palm Springs, and Sacramento. I don't think it's every driver, but a lot of drivers are being able to test this stuff. You are going to be able to, or they are able to, basically set their own fare multiplier. So if I feel like, I want the surge to be, or my fare multiplier to be 1.2x up to 5x, I can basically click a button and then increase like my fare multiplier, which is super interesting. That does, of course, mean that when Uber is kind of pairing a ride, though, it's going to try to pair the rider with the cheapest driver. So it kind of turns into a bit of an auction system, right? So it's interesting in that it gives drivers more control, but then also you have this brand new aspect of kind of hyper competitiveness amongst drivers that I think is just really interesting. So that's brand new, Gridwise Jay. What do you think?
I am at a loss for words. Can't even fathom how this is going to work out. Is there going to be a minimum threshold, or can you work for free, or can you even pay passengers money to drive them?
No, because there's a minimum. So like you can't. It's just a multiplier. So whatever the base fare is, you can multiply. You can multiply over that.
So it would just, the minimum would be zero surge or 1x.
Yes, exactly. And then you can decide, okay, I want to do 1.2x up to 5x. That's the maximum is 5x right now from what I'm reading.
Well, I feel some drivers are just going to strictly drive at 1x. And I really don't believe this is going to work out as planned. I think
the driver setting it plan. I don't know what. I mean, I think for Uber, the plan is just to make sure that they're AB5 compliant, right. And that may work. I don't know, but how is the marketplace going to react to this?
My question is, how much are passengers paying? Are they paying a multiple that you set, or are they just paying whatever Uber sets?
I think that's a good question that I don't think it's very clear on. But given that Uber's in California, what's already been kind of released for everyone is that Uber's commission is capped. I would assume that extra fee then has to go to the driver.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be no reason for me as a driver to want to have a multiplier if it doesn't go to me. So it has to go to the driver.
Exactly. The
But
only incentive I could think of even driving for a multiplier is to boost your earnings fairly.
right.
So
So I don't know. Like we could have a situation where, like you said, everyone just drives at 1x and nothing really changes,
well,
or we could have a situation where drivers are I have to imagine there's a situation where drivers are trying their best to get as much of a surge as possible.
I feel like there will be too many drivers saturating at 1x that are taking all of the demand and rides for anything to matter. I feel if anyone raises their surge to even 1.1x, 10% over the price, they're just not going to find any rides because all of the undercutters will be out in force because they don't know any better.
Right. I mean, yeah. So, like, one thing that's interesting, and I feel like a lot of, if we were to say something like this in a lot of other, I don't know, marketplaces, it would be different because your average seller in their services is a little bit more mature than the average rideshare driver because we all know how churn works in the rideshare industry. So you will always have like these newbies coming
Yeah,
in
these new drivers.
that don't understand how they should be bidding. That's going to kind of, in that they're just naturally going to undercut the market in a lot of these situations.
Right. It may not even be an intentional undercut. Like you said, Brandon, they just simply don't know any better.
Yeah. Yeah. This is going to be pretty wild. I definitely want to hear what everyone thinks about this. There's a lot of kind of incomplete information. I apologize we couldn't give you further details or more exact details on this. They're just not available yet. This is like it's a pretty secret type of thing that they're testing here. So it's not a lot of details available. But this could do nothing or it could do everything. I really don't know.
I feel the same way. I feel like this is not an event that has a third output. I feel like it's either all or nothing. Like you said, it's either it does all kinds of different things for the driving ecosystem, or it just doesn't do anything at all. But Uber
Yeah.
doesn't care, right? As long as Uber is enforcing that separation between independent contracting and employee status, that's all their end goal is.
Yeah, I also want to add. The lawyer that represents Uber in a class action lawsuit that I think was the catalyst for AB5. I think, again, my apologies for not knowing the exact details, but Ronald Zambrano, he commented on this. He said this is a mere window dressing campaign, and instead of denying AB5 as applicable or attempting an end run around the law, Uber should focus its efforts on compensating its employees for the benefits previously denied. So a lot of the people from the 80 that are very very much pro 85, like this lawyer, they're kind of almost just brushing this off, saying, hey, this is just some shit that that Uber's trying to do to circumvent the law.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how drivers would fit. What do drivers want? Do you want to be employees more, or is this something that really all of the things that Uber is doing that is kind of rolling back some of the changes that they made that's making drivers make less? Would you prefer that to have that, or would you prefer to be employees?
Drivers prefer to make more money, and I feel a lot of them want to be employees because they directly correlate being an employee with making more money.
Right.
So if Uber actually paid a fair amount to drivers whilst maintaining independent contractor status, I don't think as many people will be crying to be employees still.
Definitely
For the right
not.
price. I mean, I would drive Uber full time if it paid $1,000 an hour, but it doesn't.
We all have our number.
But it doesn't. So
Yeah, it does not. So I don't know. This is a super interesting one. This is like such a wait and see type of thing because, and it's like it's kind of like the market. Like everyone wants kind of like the market forces to be able to decide things, but this is like one market that is kind of weird and like it's hard to have an educated market of or supply side of rideshare drivers just because by nature they're just they're just always churning in and out. So I don't know.
I find it so fascinating how Uber just keeps coming up with new experiments to drive on drivers.
Yeah. Also, like when is also at what point does some of this stuff move outside of California?
Good question.
Like even just like the what did they call it? Like keeping you in the driver's seat, like all that, like from part 1 and 2. Is that something that I wonder if they're going to move into other markets when they feel the pressure, or are they going to proactively move it into other markets?
Let's think of this from a business standpoint. They're not going to do any sweeping changes if it costs them money. And I'm pretty sure doing these changes ends up costing them money. So if there's no legal pressure to do so in the political atmosphere of that state, I don't think they're going to expand any of these changes that they have in California. Again, like that lawyer said, it's just window dressing. It's in response to AB5. It's not to make them more money or save them money. They're just avoiding lawsuits while saving money.
Yeah. You know what's kind of interesting though is that, and people don't really realize this, even as mainly a passenger these days, I don't really realize this, but Uber and Lyft and really every major rideshare platform is actually increasing their prices. So what a passenger pays right now is a non-trivial amount more than what a passenger paid a year ago. And they're doing this like relatively quietly.
Like a penny increase a day across the board or something like that.
Yeah, they're just taking that out.
You never
I don't know.
It's so slow.
I don't know how much it is, but
then you're like $20
prices
down the street. What? When did this happen?
Yeah. So it's like I don't know if they are going to be I don't know if they're going to be squeezing drivers so much if like they are past the point where they're in these price wars with each other, which maybe they are. Maybe they clearly are past that point where they're doing these price wars with each other because they're increasing prices instead of decreasing them.
Maybe
so if that's the case. Say that again?
I said maybe they haven't even found the threshold where customers stop using the platform. Maybe it's still not attained yet. Perhaps people are willing to pay $10. No, $20 for a ride down the street.
Yeah. They probably have a lot. I mean, listen, you're gonna have to charge a lot for me to not Uber some places. Like I would definitely pay 10%, maybe 15% more than I do now, without really ever saying anything. Like
I would too. I'd take it without saying anything. I would take it. I would take a 10 to 15% without saying anything. No questions asked. It's still worth it, I think.
Yeah, it's like a tremendous time saving. What else am I going to do at this point? I don't even know.
Airport rides, you can literally charge me $100 to go to the airport. I would probably have to pay it. If I didn't want to, listen, so it's about $7 a day to park at the airport. And then the gasoline to drive up there at the time.
Right.
I mean, if it's a 10-day trip, that's $70. If I'm gone for 10 days, I would absolutely pay $100 to go to the airport because it saves money.
Yeah. It's like as riders at this point, we are incredibly reliant on these services. And if you were to take Uber from everyone today, there would be a lot of people like, well, I guess I'm not going anywhere.
Exactly. There's some people, yeah. Some
Yeah,
people.
I mean, we can go back to cabs and things like that, but that's such a
Oh,
different
dude, that's like
experience.
you can pay 20% less than cabs, and it'd still be less in total than
Yeah,
cabs.
yeah, you'd still be like, whatever. So I mean, they're gonna continue to increase these prices until they hit that point, and then once they hit that point, or until then, like I could imagine them being more than willing. Well, I don't know. I imagine them being willing to also make sure that drivers are more fairly compensated, of course, because so that they don't have to have these 85 like environments in other states. Like I can just see if the pressure is on even a decent amount, Uber and Lyft kind of doing some of this stuff like that. Also, one thing that's interesting is Lyft has not done any of this stuff. It's only been Uber. But Uber has the same kind of shitty like surge pricing and things like
I
that.
feel
I don't
like
really
Lyft,
understand what
yeah,
Lyft's plan is.
Lyft is playing that long game of why do we have to spend money on research initiatives when we could just let Uber do it for
Yeah,
us?
but Uber, I don't know if Lyft is just trying to like stay under the radar. Maybe no one
They
notices,
do
and
everything
they
Uber
just
does. They
kind of
mirror the changes. They don't do any of the research. Uber decreases their rates in Pittsburgh to X amount, let's say 64 cents a mile. 2 weeks later, Lyft does the same thing.
yeah.
Exactly the same
It's
price.
it's kind of like it's kind of interesting. Also, like when is that kind of sort of like a what's the word I'm trying to think of when companies are kind of colluding with each other to
Like a
get
monopoly.
an oglopoly, oligopoly,
Monopoly.
whatever. When there are a few players in the market that are basically colluding with each other to fix the market, that is not legal. I wonder when there's going to
They're
be a point
colluding. It's collusion.
collusion when they're doing that, that is illegal. And I wonder if we reach a point then, like in the case that we're saying with the prices increasing, where that kind of comes into play. I don't know. Super interesting, but we've been like rambling about
Yeah,
this
next
topic
topic,
for a
which
while.
is Uber raising taxes, or cities raising taxes on Uber and Lyft, proposed.
Yeah, lots of different places are raising taxes or trying to raise taxes. They're proposing tax increases for really not just Uber and Lyft, but all rideshare, right? So the city of Massachusetts, with their now Governor Charlie Baker, is looking at a increasing the state surcharge on ride hailing from 20 cents a ride to a dollar a trip. And then we also have out in Maryland, there's a bill right now that's projected to help the city collect millions in additional revenue, assuming it looks like an increase of 25 cents or a 25-cent tax
Mm-hmm.
that they're doing. And then we of course know about the situation where Sky Harbor, Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, in Phoenix, they have already raised their fees. So a lot of these cities, airports, states are starting to increase their fees. Kind of the scary thing about that is, what if Uber just goes and pulls a Sky Harbor and says, "Well, we're out of here," which would be bad for passengers, as we've just kind of talked about quite a bit, but also bad for drivers because that means there's nothing for us to drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So interesting.
Yeah, always interesting to know that Uber is not required to be in any place. They're
Yeah,
a for-profit business, and if it doesn't make sense for them business-wise, earnings-wise, they can just simply leave the city.
yeah.
So
I'll say so. I mean, with Phoenix Sky Harbor, that was just an airport, right? So it's not like they're leaving all of Phoenix. It's just the airport. Probably a decent amount of their revenue, yes, but just an airport.
mm-hmm.
What do you think about would they? Where do you think is the line where they say, okay, we're going to leave an entire city, like an entire city like Boston, for instance?
I think when it doesn't make sense for them from a unit per unit economic standpoint, when
Right.
they probably have an internal threshold of earnings that they want to squeeze per driver in a city specific value, and if that number is lower than what they've determined is viable, they'll leave the market. And I'm assuming it's greater than zero. No, I don't think Uber would operate in any market where they're making nothing
Yeah.
and also losing
Not
money.
anymore.
Like if you're just status quo, I mean, what's the point of just being there? Just offer your services for free, basically.
Yeah.
They got to be
Definitely
making some
not-
sort of profit.
Yeah. Definitely not
Well,
anymore.
they're not making profit in general, but I'm just saying maybe they have to be making some level.
Right. I think, well, Uber CEO, Dara K, can't pronounce his last name.
Khosrow Shahi.
Say it again?
Khosrow Shahi. We learned from a commenter. One of you awesome Gridwisers commented below on one of our 7 episodes ago when Brandon and I couldn't say his last name. I forget who you were, but you helped me out. You wrote it. You phonetically spelled it out, exactly how it sounds, and I was able to learn how to pronounce Dara's last name. It's Khosrow Shahi. Khosrow. Maybe I'm not doing it right. I'll have to double check.
Okay, I'm saying it too much. It's starting to lose all meaning.
Dara Khosrow Shahi.
Yeah, but he basically said that what Uber's strategy is they want to get to the top 1 or 2 in a market, and then they believe that if they are in that position, then it's going to be profitable for them. And if it's not profitable, then they are going to leave. So I would definitely agree. They have no qualms about leaving a market if they feel it's unprofitable for them. So I don't know. We've had cities, Chicago, for instance. I live in Chicago. They just increased their taxes on all rideshare services, and all rideshare services are still here. But I think it's definitely going to be like a market by market thing instead of just
for sure
a hard rate, because some markets are more or less profitable for them.
Mm-hmm. Uber surge. They forgot to turn it off during an emergency situation. So everybody's trying to get out of someplace, a mass casualty crisis situation, and they paid a ton of surge.
Yeah, up in Seattle.
Huge oversight to the system.
Another unfortunate shooting happened, and they had Uber and Lyft. They were surging because, of course, a lot of people were trying to get out of the area of the shooting. I'm not sure if this was. I'm sure it was after the actual shooting, but a lot of people were trying to get out of the area, and they got a lot of criticism for not turning off their surge, or for it being surging. And I have some thoughts on this where I can understand where both sides are coming from in this argument. Definitely want to hear what your thoughts are on this, though, Jay.
I will start by telling you, I'm not a technical guy. I'm not an engineer here. I don't know how hard it is to just simply flip a switch and turn off the surge, but let's just give him the benefit of the doubt that it was difficult. Something that's difficult to do, and you can't do it with a flip of a button or a press of a switch. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Then at the very least, they should have immediately released some kind of note or email to passengers who did pay the surge saying that, hey, we totally understand you paid for this. We're reimbursing you 100% of the trip. We're not even taking away the surge. We're just going to give it to you for free.
Yeah.
You'll see a refund within 2 weeks on your credit card. In this way,
right.
it is a big appreciation of the situation for Uber, and it would have been the right step to take as a company. When your responsibility, I get you're not responsible for people. You're just simply linking drivers with a passenger, or a passenger with a mode of transportation to and from a specific area. But at some point, especially during a crisis situation, you have to think, well, maybe I do have some sort of moral obligation, to at least ensure that people who needed something in an emergency situation got what they needed.
Yeah, my thing with this is I don't know how difficult it would be to just turn surge off. I actually imagine it's like relatively easy. What I think it's hard to do is know when there's like a real emergency situation.
Right. Right.
Because there's a lot of things that go on. Like unfortunately in America there are a lot of shootings that happen. And if they turned off surge in every area where there was something about a shooting that happened, surge would be off all the time. So I think it just probably takes time for them to see that something is going on and then verify that this is a real thing that's going on, which is probably why there is a delay, because Surge is just an automated system. Surge has no idea that there's a shooting going on. It would be really, really hard for I don't know how you automatically make Surge know that without someone figuring it out that this is a real thing and then going in and doing that.
Well, that's what I think too. I think, yeah, of course this is automated, but at the end of the day, you have real people in decision-making positions in upper middle management that should have kept a better eye on things.
So what do you have, like a person like looking for like mass shootings like all the time?
No, I just feel like in today's day and age, news disseminates so fast and quickly. Everybody's connected via social media, and I'm sure if you're working at a tech company, you got a smartphone. Somebody who is an owner of whatever position in management, having the wherewithal to just saying, "Oh, well, I see this is happening on Twitter. Let me make sure that I get my message. I get this news out to the person who is in charge of Surge in this market."
Yeah,
you know?
I would say so. I would say two things with that. One is you have to have like reliable sources about stuff before you act on it as a company, I feel. So like I'm sure there was a lot of like things on social media in places talking about stuff, but like a lot of that stuff is very unconfirmed early on in our news kind of, society now. Like a lot of companies don't really verify things before they say them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think on one hand, there's like some confirmation that needs to happen before you can act on things. And then I have no idea how hard it is to turn off Surge. I imagine it's actually super easy. But another thing that I was hearing when I was looking at forums, which I'm not sure how I feel about this, is a lot of drivers were saying, well, you want me to drive into this place that is dangerous enough that you really want to get out of it to take you out of it. You want me to go in here, so I should be compensated for like the danger that I'm putting myself into, which is something that I hadn't thought of, and I don't know how.
And thinking about it now, it's not even about compensation. It's more of, did they even let drivers know that, hey, you're heading into an area where there's an active shooter? Do you still want to take this ride? Because I'll tell you what, there ain't no amount of money that you could pay me if I knew I was about to pick someone up from an active shooter situation. Sorry. I'm not risking my life for Uber.
So, but then that's like, even you have to actually have confirmation even stronger at this point, because you can't act and do anything for passengers, but also be sending your drivers into.
It just shows that the passengers always come before the drivers. All of this
right.
boils down to Uber needs a better way to handle safety response and issues.
I mean, that's definitely like a real problem, because again, like you can't, if I'm as Uber, if I know enough that I turn off Surge, that there's like a dangerous situation, there's no way as a company I can send drivers unknowingly into the situation. I think you can inform them that, hey, there's something dangerous going on.
Send them, but then knowingly sending them is my issue.
But then what?
Knowingly, like they are willing and they know that there's a dangerous situation, and they're still dispatching drivers to that situation. Look, you got passengers. I get it. Passengers, they need a way out. But does that mean you have to force an Uber driver to go pick them up?
Right, exactly. So, but and the thing about that is, I'm not going. No, like I don't give a shit about the 5x multiplier. I'm not.
I ain't going.
So then, does it work out to a situation where you actually make shit 10 times worse because no one's going because you have to inform both
But
sides?
it shouldn't be.
There's no surge.
It shouldn't be the driver's obligation. There is no. There might be like a moral aspect of it, but there's no way. There's no way a driver should be expected to just like be dispatched to an active, dangerous situation to save lives. You're not police.
So,
you're not firefighter. You're not first responder. You're a civilian. That's not even an employee. You're a contractor.
yeah, that's a super difficult situation.
Yeah.
When you kind of like go into it like that, you're putting people in danger. You're either not getting people out of danger or you're putting people in danger. And then so what's the right thing to do here? I have no idea. I do like your idea of compensating the people that did get surge price. I think Lyft and Uber, I think they should definitely do that. But other than that, I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to figure that out.
Well, why don't we ask Gridwisers to let us know in the comment section below what you think about what we just talked about.
Yeah. We got one more thing that we wanted to talk about.
We do, but I am also running low on time here.
Ooh, you're running low on time.
I've got an important meeting coming up.
Wow. You're going to leave our viewers because of your...
But we were going to talk... in quotes, we were supposed to talk about the $500 million proposed bailout for for taxi medallion owners.
Yeah, that sucks for them. Yeah, I guess we could talk about that.
No one forced these taxi cab drivers to buy a medallion with loans. It's not like someone put a gun up to their heads like you gotta take a loan out for $500K and buy this medallion because that's how much it costed. It was like up to $1 million a medallion.
Yeah, but I mean they are fucked. Like
you know what? It shouldn't be my tax money that goes to bail them out. Give me a bailout.
For what?
For my loans, my student loans. I made a dumb decision going to school.
I think
bail me out, guys.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's like Elizabeth Warren's her campaign. So maybe Gridwise Jay, I don't know, but I do know that you got to go, and we have talked about all of our topics. I would love to hear what our drivers think about everything that we talked about, including and kind of especially. I really thought it was kind of interesting when we talked about how Lyft and other rideshare companies should handle these like these really dangerous safety situations. That's very intriguing to me. Would love to hear anyone's ideas on that one.
Yeah, let us know, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you guys.